All right, so we're going to count down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good luck, everyone.
that Blue Marvel is quite strong enough. Sometimes it's really nice to get it paired with the Mystique. If you don't, maybe you're not doing as many ongoing cards. And as we see there, unfortunately, Val losing out on a couple cubes here. We'll do a quick peek. Val going down with -8 cubes. Mr. Metal -4. Chalker -2. And then Huck, Super Tech out, and Vin all going up 4 cubes. Vin actually getting an 8 cube
Yeah,
lead.
Vin should have gained 8 there.
Very nice kind of first setup going here. Let's jump over to our leader then. You want to jump over to maybe Vin for our next game? See what's going on over there.
Sounds great.
Loot Muncher being the best man behind the chair, by the way. Very, very fun to not have to do anything and just say things and they appear. Awesome. So Vin is running a very, very similar deck. We can see to Val's deck that we were just looking at. A couple of key differences. This deck has the Bishop and the Wolf's Bane, as well as a Mr. Negative thrown in there in Mojo. This is actually a very unique version of this Sarah Mr. Negative. Kanye,
It's interesting that you say that.
I would love to hear your opinion on this this Vin Mr. Negative deck.
So it's interesting that you say that because, I work with Vin a lot. We do a show together. We talk about decks, obviously. I did not have any hand in building this, but to me, this looks exactly like his normal version of the deck. He just put Blue Marvel in it. Vin is a bit of a Scarlet Witch Truther. It's his favorite card in the entire game. And he would never cut her from anything. He loves that card. The interesting thing to me about this is if you go to Vin's Discord and you look at the recommended lists, you will see that there's a Punisher in it and not a Mr. Fantastic. And if you look at the list he's actually playing, you will see that he has opted for Mr. Fantastic over the Punisher. I wonder if that's a bit of a synergy thing, or if he would rather, the fail case for Mystique being taking Mr. Fantastic instead of Punisher gives her a little bit more flexibility because there are other cards like Mojo that she can take if you want power in one lane, but Mr. Fantastic lets her copy into other lanes. In addition, Blue Marvel adding power to other lanes, Mr. Fantastic adding power to other lanes. There's a bit of a sub-theme here. But I would be interested to know, why Mr. Fantastic over Punisher specifically.
Yeah, it's an interesting play there, and I definitely consider myself someone who builds decks kind of different from like the general consensus and tries to just kind of do my own thing a little bit outside of the meta. Well, what's your just general opinion? I feel like when Mr. Negative decks were first becoming popular, there was a big emphasis on just getting as much juice out of that Mr. Negative as possible. So getting really, really high cost cards with very low power, having them flip, and then getting those incredibly powerful effects, with things like White Lotus, things like Arnim Zola, all these cards that are just incredibly powerful, but then if the Mr. Negative misses, they don't really work. Now there's kind of been this shift to a much lower curve negative deck. A lot of things like Wolfsbane, Bishop, Mojo, Angela, all these cards. Punisher is very interesting for me to hear in Mr. Negative. What do you think kind of caused that switch, like the lower curve that a lot of people are running now?
Well, it's two things. One is you can pretty much put Angela and Bishop in every deck. Sure. And the other is once you realize that Angela and Bishop benefit from Mr. Negative, it sort of just snowballs from there, right? Like people talk about this deck like it's a Mr. Negative deck. It's not a Mr. Negative deck. It's a Sarah deck. And Mr. Negative is just your second Sarah, right? So Sarah discounts all your cards by 1. Well, Mr. Negative discounts Angela, discounts Bishop, discounts Wolfsbane, discount Mr. Fantastic. Like these are all relevant threats that you can play with or without Mr. Negative. He just makes them better. And so you pay the cost of running, say, a 4-4 energy instead of running something like Rescue. But the upside is you get these ridiculous high rolls with Iron Man and Mystique. And you basically still get to play the normal Sarah game. And if you ever go Sarah into negative, you get to play the normal Sarah game as if you have 2 Sarahs. And that is, like, people think of this deck as a negative deck, and it's not. The negative decks are the ones you're talking about. They're the ones with White Tiger. They're the ones with Wong. They're doing end game things by trying to ramp into Mr. Negative. This is a Sarah point slam deck. It is not a Mr. Negative deck. Mr. Negative, frankly, is a free roll. You get him for free. You can just do this because you already run all these cards.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, and that's always been my thought as I've seen this. And let's look at this final turn here. A ton of power coming out. and trying to get the W. We have the Iron Man coming out on the left, pretty much guaranteeing the limbo on the right. The Mystique and 6 extra power and the double coming over on the right. Do you think the opponent's going to retreat here? I feel like this is going to be really hard unless already using that 5 power 0 energy Iron Man in the middle. I don't see a way that loses this game. I'm looking at this as probably a four-point swing here.
Something like Enchantress could do something.
Very
I can't
interesting.
actually see the opponent's the amount of cards in the opponent's hand, so
True.
I don't know. There are
Rogue
combinations of
already
cards
gone as well.
that could win one of those limbo lanes, but I can't really tell you what they would be without knowing how many options there are. I do think this is a
Hmm.
pretty dominating position for Vin to be in, but I don't think it's necessarily locked up.
Yeah, it's looking like exactly what you said. I mean, we have a lockjaw lane in the top right, so it has to be something like a big on reveal effect, and then like a 20 power
Yeah.
card. We have surprise infinite somehow for some reason last in the deck, but I mean, this Wolfsbane is going to boost the power up to what 40 something, 46, 48.
It's a big number. So like White Tiger into who knows what could even work. But here's sort of
There's
the
my
example of this is sort of the thing. Like you see people putting White Tiger in this deck because they're like, oh, it's a Mr. Negative deck. It's not.
hmm
And like you need to be able to combat multiple Iron Men, or you won't be able to combat this deck at all. And you have all the upside of Mr. Negative without much of the downside, which is a significant advantage to the deck.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree with you, and it's very interesting to have to think about that deck in a little bit of a different light. Looks like we have a few different changes that are coming here. Vin got 4 extra cubes there and is tied up now with Unit Zero. You want to jump over to Unit Zero,
Yeah, let's see what Unit Zero
let's
is
see
doing. Unit
let's
Zero
see
was
what's
my
going on.
early favorite for
Yeah, give me 1 second. Chalk stream wasn't loaded for some reason, so I'm just refreshing, and then we'll jump over to him.
Yeah, Unit Zero running a much different deck from these Sarah negative decks that are coming out. So we have a Sunspot, a Lady Sif, Wave, and then we just have some really high power cards after that. We have Spider Man, Ghost Rider, and Enchantress in the 4 energy slot. In the 5 energy slot, we have Magic and Professor X. And then in the 6 energy slot, we have Doctor Doom, Odin, Magneto, and the Infinite. Um, really enjoying what this deck looks like. These big decks, I feel like, are another great way to take advantage of the Pegasus project to be able to just slam one of those 6 power cards. And then he's got things like Doctor Doom that can slam down early, Professor X that can slam down early for just like a sneaky lane grab. All these cards that have very unique ways that they can be played a little bit early. What are your thoughts on this Unit Zero deck?
I think there are two things to consider here. And the first is Unit Zero, to the best of my knowledge, does not have Sarah. So that is one thing to consider. The second is Unit Zero has built this deck, and it reminds me, like today, I believe Steven Jarrett, one of the devs for Second Dinner, posted a very similar list with almost the exact same cards. But what I like what Unit Zero has done here is he's made this a good Odin deck. You might not think this is a good Odin deck, but we have the combination of Lady Sif and Ghost Rider, which if Odin comes down there, it triggers Lady Sif, discarding your most expensive card and then playing the most expensive one at Ghost Rider. You have Odin and Wave, which is a great way to get multiple wave effects to lock people out of playing cards at the end of the game. Odin and Spider-Man does the same thing. Enchantress, they're obviously not expecting a second Enchantress after you Enchantress once, if that becomes necessary. Let's say they dump an Iron Man in there, for
Ooh, and
example.
we saw over there on the left the Ironheart getting that sneaky extra power over on the right to end up winning that game, but he did lose all 3 locations. Pretty surprising from his position there.
I don't think that's necessarily surprising because big numbers, I think, right now are a little overvalued when everyone else is doing something exponential. And by that, I mean, negative Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you have a 20 power guy, but, they have a negative Iron Man. That's 10 power plus a power multiplier. It's a force multiplier in a way that it's hard to combat with pure stats, which is why you see these stats decks also trying to combat it with wave and other things.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, and I agree with your thoughts on that Odin deck. Trying to use Odin and not just for the idea that combo with Lady Sif, Ghost Rider, pretty much a guaranteed win in a certain lane if you go Lady Sif into Ghost Rider, pull the Odin, and then play another really big thing. I love being able to play out an early Doctor Doom and then an Odin on top of that. I think that just the pure stats that you're getting out of that are like come out to be pretty insane. You go up to 15 power play and then an 18 power play the next time that you're going with it. And then sometimes even that like Magneto and then pulling another 3 or 4 cost card can be really sneaky.
That is sneaky. There is nothing sneaky about what Super Tech God is doing here, though. Super Tech God has all the powerful cards. Super Tech God is playing a bunch of points on a bunch of locations. This is a very interesting deck that seems to be built around getting something big out early with either Wave or Electro or Jubilee, and then just playing a Taskmaster on that big number or playing an Arnim Zola on that big number to multiply the power you get.
Oh yeah, I love this deck. I've had a stream where I played a lot of this deck, a video that came out, and I have just been playing this deck absolutely nonstop in my free time. It is so much fun. When you look at a deck like this, and you're not often going with the magic plan, but the magic is there to play on turn 6 to give yourself some more options. But there's a lot of different ways that you can utilize this. So on turn 3, you always have the choice of Electro or Wave. You're hoping that you have one of them. If you're playing Electro, a lot of times what you're trying to do is go 6-drop or 5-drop, 6-drop, 6-drop. If you're going with Wave, you're trying to go 6-drop, 5-drop, 6-drop, and just play the biggest things you possibly can. He's utilizing the Leech, which I think is so good in these Electro decks. You play Electro out on 3, you play Leech on 4 to just leech their hand. A lot of times, if they have a lot of cards that are held, I just snap because a lot of times a leech hand is just going to destroy what your opponent's trying to do, and then you slam down 2 big 6-drops to finish it out. And yeah, the Taskmaster or the Arnim Zola the on a Giganto or a Magneto can be really surprising, give you a lot of stats. If you hit an Arnim Zola on a Giganto on the left, throws 14 power in the other 2 right lanes, and you just kind of give up that lane that maybe they're going to fight you on, it can be huge and really, really fun way to finish out games.
Yeah, it definitely looks fun. I am in almost every game, my favorite thing to do is just play one card a turn and then win games anyway. And Electro is basically like the perfect card for that. So I'm really hoping that Super Tech God is onto something here because I would love to play some Electro.
Well, I do want to call out one thing real fast. I do think that may be a problem with this deck because we saw the Jubilee into the Leech. I think he's going to win a lot of 1-cube games with that. If he drops Leech like that, they're just going to leave. Like that might be a problem for this deck in Cube Rush. Great for wins, not necessarily cube amounts.
I think the other problem this deck has is, the prevalence. It's another big guy's stat sticks deck, right? Where those decks just really run into problems. We saw Vin get up to 48 power in a lane. There's no card that's 48 power. Like you just get 48 power in a lane with Iron Man and Wolfsbane and 2 dudes. And so it's just really hard to match up to that when there are going to be so many people playing Mr. Negative Sarah decks. I think against a normal Sarah deck, I think you're very much in that. Like, for example, I've been playing a Sarah deck built around disrupting my opponent by putting stuff on their board. I think I probably never beat this deck because it only plays one big guy. And that is a dangerous thing to do.
Interesting choice with the Wave there, playing it on the Sinister London. Going to cost a little bit of space in that Sinister London location, but I guess you're just probably looking to play 1 card a turn anyway. Leech comes down. White Queen from the opponent to snag 2 of these giant beasts that are in Super Tech God's hands. Well, what are your thoughts on the armor in this deck? Because that is the most confusing card. I was almost thinking about running armor because of how it works with Arnim Zola, and then I realized that sometimes Arnim Zola just hits the armor and it just doesn't work.
I think it's a concession to Shang-Chi.
Very interesting. With that many very large cards, being able to have some defense against that definitely got some pride. I think that's really smart.
I think that would be the reason I would run this card is because you're I am so sick of being Shang-Chi. If someone Shang-Chi is your Arnim Zola target, you quit. You quit the game. You close your computer and you go take a walk.
Hmm. I'm kind of surprised on this play as well, playing on turn 5 with that Infinite in hand. I would think that with Sinister London and Infinite and Sinister London is just an absolutely backbreaking play against your opponent. So I would think that just kind of like sitting tight and ripping out an Infinite there on turn 6 was going to be the best play. Chooses instead to just play the armor. Kind of interesting spot there. What would be your thought on how you would play that?
I pretty much agree with you. I think, especially given that the Infinite is likely to either just win middle immediately or lock up the left lane. Skipping turns is actually just fine because we have a sunspot, right? We just need to figure out a way to win. Oh, we're rolling the dice.
It's a 1 and 3, right, to get the Magneto. But even if he gets the Magneto, right? he's not going to win left side. Yeah, this is unfortunate. You just have to pull out. I would just retreat quickly and just try and go on to the next game.
You got like. It's interesting that you bring up the speed of it, right? You got to get out of here fast.
Yeah.
You're on the clock, right? Like, you got to get out of here as soon as you can.
It was one of my favorite things about competing in this, or 2 weeks ago when I competed in this, is just the thought of, like, next game. Let's make moves. If you see any of these games just started, maybe the bottom left here, we could jump into that game and see what's going on.
We're looking at Huck over here, Huck Bear. Also on what seems to be, at this point, the stock Sarah list. His main difference is he's running Ironheart. I don't know if that is just because, there's some upside in running Ironheart over Mr. Fantastic, or if, free card is better than a 2-cost card. But the Ironheart and the Blue Marvel sort of fills the same role as Mr. Fantastic. Personally, I do think Mr. Fantastic has a little bit of extra synergy here. One other thing you'll notice that isn't in this deck is Mystique, which lowers your ceiling and mirrors significantly. And this kind of looks like a mirror. That said, we have an 0 energy 5 power Iron Man. It feels like it's going pretty well.
That's hard to beat. Whenever I draw that 0 energy 5 power Iron Man, I'm snapping immediately. I don't know about you. That card is the most busted card in the entire game. When you flip it over with that Mr. Negative, so I think I'm going quick. But you see, doesn't have the Mystique. Interesting choice. I feel like a lot of times when you see a pool 3 card that's just not there, you might just not have it. Might not have pulled it yet.
Might not. Like that, I didn't want to necessarily bring that up. It is entirely possible that he just does not have it. It could be a choice being made, or it could be a card limitation. But I actually have seen a lot of arguments regarding, is Mystique good in the deck? Is Mystique a win more? Do you actually need her? I personally come down on the side of, yeah, you probably need her. She doesn't feel great, but in terms of like optimizing cubes, you probably run the thing that lets you be a 3 mana Iron Man, or God forbid, a 0 energy Iron Man. And as a note, you'll have to forgive my use of the term mana. I'm working on it, I swear.
Oh, don't worry, I do the same all the time. And mana, energy, all the same. Yeah. I think that Mystique is core. I mean, I think that Mystique, unless you're running a version where you're running very few ongoing effects, and maybe like Iron Man is like your only ongoing, or like Iron Man and Sarah are your only 2 ongoing. Maybe you're looking at that as a win more, like, oh, you're only playing this if you get an Iron Man down already. But you look at this deck, some Mojo, Rogue, that can pull one of theirs, and then you can play that one that got Rogue, Blue Marvel, so many different races.
I do think Blue Marvel and Pegasus on Project Pegasus does do some significant work for making Mystique better. But I will say, in credence to the arguments, which basically involve, some players I really respect. Is like when Mystique copies those other cards, she's mostly pretty bad. Especially if you don't negative her. If you negative her and she copies a Mojo, sure, she's great. She costs 0, she's great. But when she copies all these other cards, she's usually not exactly in range of the rest of the cards in your deck. And if you draw her beforehand, she just sort of sits in your hand and like can't really do anything with her. You don't want to do anything with her. You can't play her on turn. You have to wait for something else to show up. She feels bad. I think the issue is she feels bad, but she is good in the sense of cubes per minute, basically. You want that overpowering knockout punch, and that's what she is.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit it right, when it's stuck in your hand, it doesn't feel great. And no one feels great playing a 3 energy Mystique in any Mr. Negative deck. I mean, it's just so. I mean, even look at Ironheart. I mean, Ironheart feels pretty bad when you're just playing it as 3 energy. When you're playing it and it's zero energy, you get 3 power and you get 6 power across the board. It feels like an absolutely busted card, right?
Speaking
So
of absolutely busted, what's
yeah.
happening right here? I'm feeling like what happens here is going to be pretty strong from both players.
From both players. This is one of the turn sevens where it's like I have no idea like what
Yeah.
to do. Obviously, looking and seeing that you're down in all 3 locations is tough. Your opponent has a pretty strong Angelo over on the left. You have a decently strong Angelo over on the right. But what can we do and what mind games can we play? You know, there's always in fighting games in any card game. You know, there's different levels. There's playing what you think is the best cards that your cards can do. That's level one. But playing the best thing that you can do based on what you think your opponent is going to play, you know, that's level two. You're thinking about what they're going to play, and then you're trying to make the strongest play, and it goes infinitely far because you can then
Yes.
play what your opponent's going to play based on what they think that you're going to play, right? So there's infinite levels to these games, and I think that one thing that Marble Snap does better than almost any game is accentuate those mind games because you know that this game is going to end on turn 6 or turn 7 every single time. There's no way to go further than that. There's going to be an endpoint, and you have a really solid idea of what your opponent's going to play. Each opponent only is going to have 12 cards in their deck. You're usually going to be pretty similar. So I think that side of things it just makes it a ton of fun. And it looks like he worked it out right, winning Limbo
He
over on the
did.
right by just 4 power.
I
I,
will note, I think he might have messed up one small thing. His thought process was exactly correct in terms of just letting the bishop outscale on the left by playing a bunch of cards, but because that demanded that his opponent play something into the left lane, which ended up being an Iron Man, which if it had gone anywhere else would have cost him the game. But he should have played the Iron Heart last in order to make sure that the buffs got into the other lane because he was already pretty sure he was going to win that mid lane with the Iron Man. So that's the only note that I would have on that.
one thing,
That he did was correct.
one thing I want to add with that match too. I think it was a big deal that the opponent had priority going into that match too, or that turn because he played the Shang-Chi, but in that lane there was nothing that was going to get Shang-Chi'd. Maybe he didn't have a lot of cards in his hand. He was just trying to put power there, but
Yeah,
I think that's a big help.
That actually speaks to a deck building consideration too, which is that Shang-Chi not good in the mirror. Not good in the mirror. Does not do anything unless you can snipe specifically a bishop.
Yeah, and you have to rely on being usually in the second position for that turn 7 and not being ahead on turn 7 to be able to get it. Because the bishop, sometimes it will scale over 9 before that big final play, but usually you're going to have to wait until there's like 4 or 5 cards get flipped out of the hand to be able to play that variant there.
We've got another big boy deck here, another Infinite deck. These cube rushers are really settling on we're either playing Mr. Negative or we're playing the Infinite. That's everything right now.
Well, I think the location helped this week too.
I'm surprised though, because I don't feel like the Infinite is good with the location.
I would agree with that. I think big decks are definitely benefit, but the Infinite specifically doesn't really get too much.
Yeah, that's
The biggest confusion I have with this deck is the Infinite doesn't really have any enablers. A lot of times when you're playing Infinite Magneto Giganto, you're shooing in a Lady Sif and a Ghost Rider into that deck, right? Because you want to get those giant stats. None of those are getting played. The only way that he can play the Infinite is by skipping turn 5 completely.
We also have this Kingpin Magneto thing, which I think is I'm not gonna say this is really good, right? Especially against these Mr. Negative Sarah decks that tend to fill up the board as we're seeing. But if there was a world in which we could play Kingpin Magneto, it would be the world not where people are getting 5 free mana. It would be a different world from that. Because Kingpin Magneto, strong combo, but if they fill up that lane, you're in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. Kingpin, especially with the rework that it has to only work on turn 6 as opposed to next turn, definitely kind of changes things. It does make it better for the Magneto combo specifically because you can just play it. You don't have to play it on turn 5 necessarily and you can do some setup. But honestly, if I have that Kingpin variant with the sweet Hawaiian shirt, I might be coming up with reasons to slot it into my decks as well. So I can't believe it.
Oh, absolutely. Tony Soprano, Kingpin, not even a question.
That's a great variant. Great variant. I definitely am excited. I've wanted to play some Kingpin decks, and now that I finally have a full collection, I think that someone's coming really soon.
Oh man, are we like the only two people with a full collection at this point? Is it just like you and me?
I got one the other day. Finished it off.
Paper just finished it off as well. I feel like a lot of people are finally hitting that now that they made the change, which coincided with the Nexus event patch, which is hilarious, but it was like the best change that they ever made from a monetization.
Yeah.
Came alongside the original inclusion of the Nexus events.
Everyone was
after
so
that,
mad,
it's been so
and
much
it was
quicker.
so good. It was so good.
Oh man, dude, the gold, just the amount of gold that just pumped into my account in one day when they got the refunds. Oh baby.
I just noticed that Huck Bear sitting at the top with 29 cubes.
29 cubes.
29 cubes.
Let's see. I'll have to get a look. Okay, so we're on Loot Muncher stream. We just crossed the halfway mark, so we have a couple of people. Mr. Metal, Super Tech God, gonna have to do a lot of work to get it back into this -7 and -6. Huck Bear absolutely crushing it with the 29 cubes, and Unit Zero, Vin Kaiser, Val, all kind of, and Chalker, all kind of in the equation and can get up there. You know, you'd be really surprised how quickly you know if Val gets an 8 cube game, Huck Bear gets a -8 cube game. Right. Just then, you know, it's only
Yeah.
4 cube game.
No, I mean Val has already climbed out of the hole. Val was in the hole early. Lost his first game, 8 cubes, and now he's +8.
Very exciting. Very interesting to see what's going to end up here. Let's jump over to Mr. Metal if we can. I know we haven't really had too much of a chance to check out what he's got going on. It looks like he's somewhat early in his game here. We'll pull up Mr. Metal's deck. Mr. Metal running another kind of variation of just this big deck. We have Lady Sif and Ghost Rider. At the top end, we're looking at Odin, Arnim Zola, Chavez, Magneto, and Yukon. Chavez is an interesting call in this deck. Not really sure what they're trying to
Do you want me to tell you why? I can tell you why.
Gold.
Yep, he's playing all the gold cards he owns.
Oh baby, I didn't even notice that. That is a flex.
He's been working on this deck for a little while. It's definitely nice to see. It's a very useful tool for not necessarily winning the game, but winning the moral victory.
Magic going down in the middle, I don't love that. I hope they move it over to the right because this Shang-Chi in the middle seems like it's going to be incredibly powerful.
I'm going to put it anywhere but the middle.
Yeah, I really didn't like that. You play the Magic over in the middle, you have a free win with Shang-Chi. Playing him out in the middle. It looks like you're still ahead here in this limbo location once the dust settles.
Yep.
Man, I feel like that guaranteed win with the Shang-Chi in the middle is going to be so much more important. I'm surprised they're not just
Wouldn't we?
opting to.
No, we can't Magneto here. If we Magneto here, we pull the Wolf's Bane, and we probably won't beat that, right? Maybe we should do Magneto.
I would just Magneto on him. Oh, I guess with the big house we can't get it. Maybe we Magneto.
Oh wait, when a card moves here, destroy it. Magneto is busted.
Yeah, Magneto's busted here on the Ray. It's gonna break the Ironheart and the Wolf's Bane. It will give the opponent some space to then try and re-win the middle. Oh no!
Oh, and the storm take out the Fist Tower.
But the Magneto pulling over to the right.
If it's not Wolf's Bane,
And it's Wolf's Bane.
and then
The problem is if they can play, if they have a card that's bigger than a Chavez that they can play in the middle, it's just gonna straight up win them. No, they want a ladies. No, I would be Lady Sif Ghost Rider on the left here.
you can't Ghost Rider to the left.
I got a Lady Sif Ghost Rider. Oh, you can't Lady Sif Ghost Rider. Sure.
You could Arnim Zola. I think this is. I don't know if this is the move, but it's definitely funny.
It's a move. It's what he's got. It's what he's going with.
You got a Chavez coming down.
Odin.
The Ironheart.
Odin.
The Ironheart.
Where's the Ironheart going?
Ah. Hit the squirrel.
All it needed was that one hit there in the Age of 13. Very rough from further down. I mean, that was a fun game. I love the idea of trying to do that on Anzola. Rough to see.
Yeah,
I
he.
believe Huck may have just farmed a bot, and now is sitting up at 37 cubes. We are who's early in the game?
Yeah,
Super Tech God.
Okay. Metal is not having a good time, by the way. When I been checking this out, I've seen 2 crashes of his, so he's not having a good time.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, never fun when the when just like there's any kind of technical issues that are making you perform at a level where you don't really want to be. Always hate to see that. So hopefully we got our fingers crossed for positive technical issues.
On the other hand, this is an interesting dynamic being created in Super Tech God's game here, because he's playing a deck that is built around playing 1 card a turn, and he is playing that deck on a location that really punishes it, Mojo World. So in a sense, I think he's very lucky to have drawn his smaller cards here. Something like, oh no,
the Black Widow absolutely eviscerates you if you're playing an Electro deck. I've had that happen not too many times, once or twice, but it feels so bad. Do I use my whole turn to spend this? Usually not. You're just saying, hey, this is my hand for the rest of the game. He's probably going to leech, chill, and then Infinite.
that's the worst thing I have ever seen. That is so bad, man.
It's real bad.
Worst.
Maybe they leached a Ghost Rider there that was already in hand. Could be really big for that Lady Sith. Opponent retreated on the leech.
The leech retreat.
Comes back from the Widow's Bite.
I have no explanation for anything that just happened. I am blown away. That's the best game I've seen today. Is there an award for that? And if not, can we make an award for best game I've seen today?
The power of the leech. A lot of times, I played leech a lot when I was first building my collection, just because I thought it was a really fun card, even though I still think it's pretty weak. But the funniest thing about the leech is that sometimes you'll be like, "There's no way I'm winning this game," but I played a leech. Sometimes your opponent just concedes because what they want to do,
Right.
like their main thing that they want to do, gets broken, and they're like, "Oh, screw this, I'm out." Even
They
though
had
you
a
have
Ghost
no
Rider.
way of coming back and winning the game. You
Right, no,
could
they were a
have
Ghost
more
Rider
power
deck.
for the next 2 games.
They were a Ghost Rider deck. They discarded the Infinite with the Sif, and now they had no Ghost Rider. So they just had no Infinite.
Oh no, the rogue coming in, stealing the. Is that going to be enough? Oh, disaster!
No.
Absolute disaster! What a sneaky rogue play there.
We are watching just the swingiest games, but yes, the power of Rogue on full display. She is the best, in my humble opinion. Tech inclusion in the Sarah list for exactly that reason, because so many of your games rotate around Iron Man, or Iron Men, as it were, and she is an excellent vehicle for that.
Yeah, that was a couple huge swings back to back there.
Yeah.
All right, what are your thoughts here? What are you playing if you get this Pegasus project? Yeah, let's stay here. Let's stick to another game if you don't mind.
Yep.
That's definitely the Sarah there.
Sarah's definitely the play there. I mean, getting a turn 1 Sarah.
Ooh.
If it's me, I'm snapping there. I think that a turn 1 Sarah is better than a turn 1 Mr. Negative.
I disagree. I significantly disagree. I think a turn 1 Mr. Negative getting all of those extra draws of negative is insane. You already build the deck to be mostly playable with Sarah, which means having her for a long time, especially if she gets rogue, is a really, really problematic place to be, because you're already going to be able to play those cards. That's a good equalizer.
Turn 3 Mr. Negative back, but losing the rogue. So we have an opponent with a Mr. Negative full deck as well as a rogue. Pretty spooky here.
What's weird is, I think if Huck can draw his rogue, then he's still extremely in this game.
I feel like, but you don't. I feel like you don't want to target it at the Mr. Negative, though, right? You're gonna want to try and target it at their Iron Man a little
Correct.
bit later.
You want to make sure we have it, and we want to steal their Iron Man with it. I don't know if I like this deployment of the Iron Man here because it makes it very clear what your opponent has to do to beat you. And they are a Magic deck. They will likely be able to reach 36 if they have an Iron Man, and it also means that if they play the Iron Man there, they know that they're going to beat you there. Blue Marvel is a good surprise, but you don't get to steal their Iron Man if it's in a full lane.
By the way,
If we don't have the rogue, we have to keep in mind that we can draw it.
just a quick update on the leaderboard. Huck is at 33, Unit Zero is at 29, and Vin's at 27. So very close for the top three.
So this is an
Wait, 20
important
minutes
game.
left.
Yep, 19 minutes.
This is an important game. It decisions like this matter, and if we draw that rogue now and they've Iron Man in the middle, we're basically just guessing.
Yeah, getting the Iron Man down early isn't too bad with the rogue already being gone from the opponent, but I definitely agree board blocking that early.
Yeah.
Maybe you are relying on that Blue Marvel play a little bit later as that huge surprise that they're not really going to expect.
I think that has to be what you do. I mean, there's a reason Huck hasn't snapped here. He's in a cube competition and he hasn't snapped, so like he understands the position he's in for sure.
That's making that Mojo play look really, really solid over there on the right.
There's Sarah.
So they're going to have a double Sarah turn, but it looks like they're probably not going to have many cards. They've already played out just about all the cards you would have at this point.
That's very interesting. That makes them where if he plays in to fill up that right lane, the opponent has double Mojo that will go off.
This is what I was talking about.
Oh, there's Rogue.
I don't know if it works. I think it does. I think you rogue there, and then you play Blue Marvel on the other lane, and you should win both of those lanes.
I mean, you.
Once it hits the Sarah, if it hits the Sarah, it's going to be a bit.
If it hits
of a
the
whiff
Sarah, that's
there.
fine. Yeah, but there are two good hits here, right? You take a 66%er. Frankly,
And they're still going to have to do a lot of work to win either. Well, no, because they're going to win Limbo no matter what. Because this play never wins Limbo.
it's a question about taking Project Pegasus, right? Okay. Sure.
All right, here we go. Here's the roll.
Hits the Sarah, I believe. No, it should still be a win because it's.
Let's find out.
Lose 6 there. He's gonna have to hope it hits this.
Got
Oh,
the
and it hits the
Mojo.
Mojo.
Got him. That is
Great play there.
exactly correct.
Flipping the script. Blue Marvel does the job.
Big plays, big plays.
Another rogue win. This is the rogue Cubra. She is going off.
Absolutely love to see it. Let's jump over to either Vin or Unit Zero. If either of them is pretty early in a game. Very, very
Vin.
close towards the end here.
It looks
I'll
like
note,
Unit
by the
Zero
way-
is starting one up.
Okay. I'll note, by the way, that I do think Huck should have snapped there. He was 66% at the way I saw it to win the game, right?
Yeah. Looking at the 66% for sure, seeing that you had, the Sarah hit would have been bad, but yeah,
Yeah,
big,
snap on a 66. If you lose, it sucks, but you do it.
yeah, for sure.
I guess maybe a little less than 66 if they had the full power, the five power Iron Man as well as another big card in the middle. They could have just
Yeah.
stood back and won Pegasus Project and won. But yeah, I definitely agree with you that that's a really solid chance to win. And you're maybe Huck hadn't been looking at the scoreboard, didn't realize people were creeping up and was trying to play a little bit safe. Totally
That would
understand.
make sense. I mean, he is very high up. But to be fair, this is a guy who joined the Discord saying, where's all the people I'm going to beat at?
Very interesting here. Just going to go with the wave and then probably dropping a 6 power card or a 6 energy card here. Maybe going for the Professor X over on the left.
I would think about magnetoing and moving the Wolfsbane to middle to know the full limitations. But Professor X on a Sunspot lane is never bad.
Well, this is just a good spot. He gets the Professor X, which the White Tiger messed that up. But I'm assuming the plan was that, then Spider middle, and then Big Guy middle. But yeah,
I mean,
that.
it's still fine because of Sunspot, right? But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, if you just
Oh,
big guy's middle.
It's not fine
guaranteed
anymore.
to win that sunspot location.
It's not fine anymore. It's the opposite of fine. Everything is not fine.
He could still be okay here. If he just Ghost Rider's middle, he wins. If he just Ghost Rider's middle, he gets 2. No, because he'll only get up by 1 in the middle there.
And he'll get
Chances have anything to do.
Yeah, no, I think he's locked.
Yeah, he needed a 3-power card here. If he had some kind of 3-power card that he could play in the middle, the sunspot would get him over the top.
Yeah.
So he could go for the Enchantress that would tie him on the middle.
Enchantress would make him win the middle by 2 points, and then we'd be tied on nowhere and lose tiebreakers on Central Park.
That was a very tactful retreat for 2 cubes lost, not gambling the 8.
I mean, there was no gamble.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You go through the flow chart there, you just say, hey, there's no way I'm winning this. Let's get out of here. All right, popping back over, we have Val. Val's still in it with 18 cubes. I feel like Chalker, Super Tech God, and Mr. Metal are going to need some kind of a miracle to sneak back at this point, but it could always happen.
I mean, we already saw that happen. Val was -8 at the beginning, so really he's plus 24. Like, Val's doing great.
Let's see.
This looks like a pretty clear 8-cuber for Vin Kelsier, and that will give him the lead with 39 cubes.
Huge jump there. Huck finally getting a little bit scared here.
I don't know. Do they? Out of curiosity, I don't know the answer to this. Do they know the score?
Let's stick over there on Vin for another round. Huck has it on their stream, I believe, but
Okay.
I feel like most people have it on their stream, and you're always looking between every game to move things up and down. Okay, we're seeing Johnny from the opponent. Maybe this might be a bot game. Maybe there's a chance to push this lead even further.
That's potentially an advantage here. This could be a game or a cube rush ceiling bot dunk here if it is.
It's definitely Vin and Huck's definitely pulled away a little bit with Vin at 39 and Huck at 38 with Unit 0 now at 25. Definitely 12 minutes left. Definitely still possible for big games.
Pretty dominant performance from the Sarah decks, the Sarah negative decks. It sort of validates the assumption of Sarah negative is probably the best deck in the game, and it makes sense that the 2 people playing the closest to stock Sarah negative decks are sitting at the top here. Project Pegasus here is interesting, but ultimately what it means is we Mr. Negative a turn early and don't lose any value. So Vin is going to ruin this bot, is really what I'm getting at here. I would have snapped.
The Inkify guaranteeing it's a bot.
I would have snapped forever. I don't even know if this is a bot, but I would have snapped a long time. I guess you maybe don't have to if you think this is a bot.
Well, you know now with the ink that it's a bot, right? That's that giveaway. And once he sees that, once he kind of gets that guarantee, I suppose getting that out there. But yeah, you never want to snap too late with the bot because sometimes on like turn 5s and turn 6s, if you're rushing them, they will actually retreat. They just gotta try and milk it best as you can.
Yep.
They're moving around this 3 energy, this 3 power, multiple man, which I'm sure on Vin's face.
The shout out to Unit 0, by the way, making it interesting at the end. 33 cubes for Unit 0 as he picks up an 8-cube win. So now we have 3 players above 30 cubes, although I do suspect Vin Kelsier is about to go to 47.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with the early negative, as long as you play the smart, you might even say I'm not going to play the Scarlet Witch because it can have some catastrophic backfire potential, as Scarlet Witch tends to do. You just kind of sit back, play your game as best as you possibly can.
Vin would never.
Yeah.
Vin would never not play a Scarlet Witch.
If it's me, I'm maybe mojoing in the left and then maybe just like slamming that Wolfsbane down in the middle. But I guess the Scarlet Witch in the middle isn't a terrible play. But they're just going all in on the middle. Yeah, I guess with bots, you got to think they're not going to think too far.
That's a
out
nice
ahead
2-power Iron Man they have there. That's a nice 2-power Iron Man from the bot. Wow.
Vin actually looking like he's gonna be in some trouble going into this turn 6.
The Magic probably gonna bail him out, but wow, I don't think.
I thinking maybe Scarlet Witch Magic to the right here.
I would expect you do both
Scarlet
of them,
Witch.
but I don't necessarily think you do them on the same lane so you can avoid getting completely demolished. But Vin has his own Iron Man, so he will be able to take that left lane with that Iron Man.
If I was Vin here, I wouldn't be thinking too much. I would be trying.
Yeah, I would be just playing this game.
Running out of time here. Huckler with 37, units here with 33.
Yeah, what?
Just snapped. Wow.
Oh, the opponent snapped earlier.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Vin only just snapped.
So you gotta think here. You know what I'm a little bit worried about. You know, if his plan is just to play Iron Man on the left, say, oh, I'm gonna win Limbo and Sewer System.
Yeah.
Heimdall comes down in the middle and blows you out, right?
No, actually, Heimdall moves a 2-power and a 4-power, so it's 14.
Right, the bottom
and
two.
then they get Sewer System. And oh wait, the buff on Heimdall though. Wait, maybe
It's gonna be a tie.
no, it's the Xandar. They got the Xandar pluses over there, so it makes the math worse. But I think he will win.
Gotcha.
Especially with
Oh,
the
and
Mojo.
the Mojo, and you got to worry about the Mojo as well. Very interesting.
That bot really tested him. I gotta say, a bot
Brought him to
having
the limit.
2-power Iron Man, that's pretty dangerous.
Spooky.
Never doubt he wins all 3 lanes with that Mystique off the top deck. yeah.
Mystique top deck is kind of snasty.
Yeah.
Looking at it, Vin out to a huge lead now, over a 10-cube lead. We're looking at 8 minutes left on the clock. So you know, Vin, if he's smart here, just don't play super risky. Get your games in, and you know.
Ooh, Vin's going up against Mr. Metal. Can we get Mr. Metal's perspective on this?
Ooh, love it.
Let's go. You know, he might not win this cube rush, but he win a huge moral victory by beating filthy net deck originator Vin Kelsier.
If I was Mr. Metal, I would snap right now.
Yeah.
Just send a message.
Oh yeah, if you're in last place, you're like, all right, there's 8 minutes left. I'm not gonna win, but I'm going against the number 1. And what I can say is that while I didn't win Cube Rush, I did in the middle of that Cube Rush take out the number 1 player. It's got to be a huge moral victory there for sure.
Now let's see if he can attain it.
It's all gold deck going in. Free
Limbo.
magic for both players.
As Mr. Metal draws magic, naturally. We're looking at the 47 versus -11 matchup. The 1/8 seed, if you will, even though there's only 7 players.
It's got to be tough here, especially if we're seeing something early. We're seeing the early Wolfsbane getting played over there. Just saying, you know, let me just get this out of my hand. I'd rather play something on turn 3 than nothing. Kind of an interesting choice. This Jubilee can obviously make a big impact.
You know what else is an interesting choice,
The
though?
Infinauts.
Wow. Would you snap on that?
I would snap now for sure. Yeah, snap now.
I'm aggressively clicking the snap. button already.
Like, how many times have you
before.
clicked it between when that happened and when he actually snapped? Like 20? Probably just been mashing it.
I love mashing the snap button. It's a great feeling.
Sometimes
And
I
Vin
check.
accepts the snap. He says, I got enough power here to
okay.
beat ya.
So what happens in the middle, I think, is my question. And I guess secondarily, there's kind of a wave Odin line here on which we are not going for.
So, sorry, I have the technology. I wanted to see what was in Vin's hand.
Okay, well, that's a pretty good guess. Let me see what I was talking about, where it's like, oh, well, yes, you have a bunch of big guys, but I have 2 Iron Men. And that's
Iron Man and Mystique. It's
significantly
gonna be tough to be
better.
enough, though.
I'm not sure it is. That sunspot's getting big. And Vin is, I think, right now processing that he will not be able to ever take the monster off of that, and has to do the math on playing the magic there to get rid of that monster Metropolis buff. Which I think, if he just plays magic in one and bishop in the other, yeah, they can do it. This is sort of why I was wondering about,
you're
what if
looking
we're
at 2 Iron Men. Oh, sorry, go on.
So sorry, what if we're supposed to play wave here if you're Mr. Metal?
he has a good look at the hand that he has 3 cards left in hand, right? So if we're waving here, you know, we're keeping them to only playing 1 card next turn. Don't have that many options either way.
Right, they're gonna play
they
2
do
Iron
get
Men.
the 50-50 on the Odin.
You're gonna play
So
2
they're gonna
Iron
get the
Men,
Odin,
right?
so-
Which means you're gonna win one of those lanes.
You gotta win 2.
Right, but you're already winning the Limbo one with the Infant on it. So if you make them only play 1 Iron Man, suddenly you're winning the other lane too. Intriguingly, there's not a card in Vin's deck that wins him that Limbo right now. I think Mr. Metal might have locked this up.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that just the amount of power that is slammed out here is going to be a little bit more than they can deal with. No Mr. Negative early to expect, you know, Mystique that can get a little bit extra power in the double, or an Iron Man that can get some extra power in the double. So yeah, I mean, I think that Vin's going to have to run here if they want to maintain this lead. Well, it sucks to lose the 2 cubes, but I don't see what you can do to sneak out of here.
There he is.
Mr. Metal.
Mr. Metal, get them. Mr. Metal, get them. Let's go, Mr. Metal.
The moral victory.
The moral victor. Can we get? Oh, sorry. 1 second. I have to.
We have Huck Bear 4 cubes away, 41 cubes to 45 cubes against Vin. 3 minutes left on the clock. We're probably coming into our last couple of games here for both players.
I just want to make sure we pull up Chalker at some point going forward.
We watched the whole chapter.
Yeah, I know. I'm
spread
keeping
the
track of
love
my
a
head
little.
basically. I
Love
want to
it,
make sure we
love
get some Chalker in there.
We had chocolate earlier. We had that Sweet King bin.
Yeah, we were talking about that Sweet King.
And we
Now
could
we're talking
have
about
the
this
chance to
sweet
get
Jubilee.
a big Magneto game here.
Ooh.
Just depending on how much comes out on the lock show location.
Oh, that Jubilee.
Oh, that was disgusting. Jubilee into Odin into Lady Sif, into copied Jubilee into Ghost Rider, into play the card you discarded with the Lady Sif.
Now this could be a huge Daredevil. They're
Yeah.
gonna be seeing the Daredevil.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
That was a pretty devastating turn.
That was if what happened to me, oh, I can tell you, that was brutal. We got Huck there in a game that just started.
We got 2 minutes left too, so
2
Huck
minutes
Bear
on the
against
clock.
Dave.
if y'all give me 1 moment, I'm just gonna unmute, go down the list, and let everyone know we got 2 minutes left. Hey, just wanted to jump in and let you know we got 2 minutes left.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Hey, Huck, just want to let you know we got 2 minutes left.
Good luck. Tight up there at the top.
Oh, I muted him. My bad. Hey, Metal, just letting you know 2 minutes left, buddy. Hey, just letting you know 2 minutes left. Well, it's 1:20 now. Hey, just letting you know you got 1 minute left. Hopefully he heard that. Hey, just want to let you know you got 1 minute left. Hopefully he heard that too.
Alright, huge Huck game here, getting the Mr. Negative and the Sarah down. They do not have the turn timer on there, but it looks like we're going to the turn 6 here with no magic on the field.
Yeah, it's 6, and we have the ability to play Magic, so deploying the Mojo over to the left and then the Magic into Murder World seems to make some sense. We're looking, without Mystique, we do have to sort of really think hard about what we're doing here, because we only get to deploy. We're going for the win just straight
Whoa.
up. We're just saying you don't have 9 power in the middle, or if you do, you won't play it.
By the way, this is huge. The top 3 are within 6 cubes of each other.
Yeah, so this is an important decision. Do we snap on this? Would you snap on this, given the position on the leaderboard? I think you have to. You play to win the game, right?
Yeah, I love this. If our opponent plays Magic, we're playing our full hand out, and we have a really good chance. Mojo and Wolfsbane is going to be super hard to be on the left. They have to put significant amount of power in because the Mojo and the Wolfsbane is just going to put them up by 2, and then they'll get an additional, or actually, with the Bishop and the Angela.
Unit 0, Vin Kelsier losing 8 cubes. Unit 0 coming in at 42.
Big Jubilee Rogue, not very big, but we're expecting a Magic here on the right.
Sure. Magic on the right. This Huck Bear game is for everything. If he
Yes.
can get this to go to the final turn and win it, he will win this whole thing.
Blue Marvel and Iron Man is going to be so hard to beat here. I think you snap, and I think
Huck Bear is about to.
No, you don't snap.
Yeah. The problem with the snap is a little bit weird. I definitely agree with that.
Well, it's just he just needs to win the 4. He wins the 4 and he wins the cube
He
rush.
just needs the 4. He only needs the 4 to win cube rush.
But his opponent can't retreat, so you don't want to snap.
Yep. You gotta stay.
Is Unit 0 did Unit 0 get into another game before the end?
It does not look like it. Looks like he's at the end screen.
This Huck Bear game is it.
Yeah, Unit 0 is done. Everyone's on their final game here.
Do they retreat? Not snapping here.
Oh, they snapped.
Oh no. Oh no. If they retreat now.
I think that was the opponent that snapped, no?
Oh, was it?
I can't tell. There's no way of knowing.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. 36.
Shang-Chi in the middle could be enough.
44 in there. Iron Man.
But Mojo,
Our Mojo, we win left.
Just by a little bit. Mystique.
Mystique the Iron Man.
Shang-Chi would be huge.
Shang-Chi would be.
Rogue.
Oh, and it took the Iron Man. We're out of here.
No. Unless the
He can-
win the limbo stuff.
Yeah, they have to win right.
Oh, big if it hits the left.
Oh no! No! Oh!
Disaster. Oh no.
All right, I'm gonna unmute everyone.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That was brutal. We have a tie, apparently, by the way. So what happened? Do we have sudden death rules? How does this work?
I've never thought about this at all. I've never thought about a tie.
Okay.
I think they both just queue a game, right?
Yeah, Q1 game, yeah.
Whoever wins the most cubes from that game?
Wait, who?
Wait, for real? Vin?
Oh.
Oh, I did not know Vin was still in.
Okay, so we're not
Okay,
gonna
now
have
this
a
game is for all the marbles then. We got Vin in, and I think, is Unit 0 in the game or no?
No, I think Unit 0 is done, yeah.
Okay. So Vin is in a game. It looks like it's turn 6, and it looks like he's gonna try to win Cube Rush here now.
That's all you need.
That's enough. That's all you needed.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, double check that.
We're doing the stop the count thing.
There was the hanging Chad. Hanging Chad.
I had a huge lead. Always win again.
It is correct. Okay. Congratulations.
By